10 of the worst epidemics in history. Hello everyone, welcome to Major 10. Unlike a pandemic, which is a disease or virus that is spread worldwide, an epidemic is a disease that affects a large number of people within a community, population, or region. This means the spread is concentrated and often results in high numbers of deaths in a very short period of time. As we find ourselves in troubled times, today we will take a look at the worst epidemics in history and see how they were overcome. If you're new to our channel, hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to watch till the end if you're ready to have your mind blown. Ring that notification bell as well so you'll never miss another video. Number 10. Antonin Plague, AD 165 to 180. The Roman Empire traveled far and wide to campaign and lay siege across the globe. When they returned, they brought back more than the riches of conquest. The Antonin Plague is believed to have been smallpox, as written accounts from the time share very similar symptoms such as high fever, blisters, vomiting, and diarrhea. It is believed to have been brought back by Roman soldiers after their war against Parthia. It is estimated to have killed over 5 million people, which led to the Roman Empire weakening. Soon after, an increase of barbarian invasions furthered their struggle to recover. Number 9. American Polio Epidemic, 1916. A polio epidemic started in New York City which caused 27,000 cases and resulted in 6,000 deaths throughout the U.S. It was a severe viral infection that didn't show any symptoms in some people but caused temporary and permanent paralysis which could lead to death. The disease mainly affected young children, which left many survivors with permanent disabilities. Polio epidemics occurred sporadically in the U.S. until the Salk vaccine was finally developed in 1954. As the vaccine became widely available, cases in the U.S. dropped rapidly, though it is not entirely eradicated throughout the world. The last reported case in America was in 1979. Number 8. Great Plague of London, 1665 to 1666. The Black Death is amongst the most infamous outbreak of a disease in human history. It originated in China in 1331 and spread across the world, resurfacing throughout the following years. The Great Plague of London began in April 1665 and spread rapidly through the hot summer months. It was the fleas that led upon the plague-infected rats that spread the disease to humans. By the end of London's plague, 15% of the population had died. To add to the city's troubles, a great fire broke out a year later, which lasted 4 days and decimated a large portion of it. Number 7. Prehistoric Epidemic, 3000 BC. Around 5,000 years ago, an epidemic wiped out an ancient village in northeast China. The 97 bodies of those who died were placed inside a house, which was then set on fire. The archaeological site is now called Hamin Mangha and is one of the best preserved prehistoric sites in China. An anthropological study shows that the endemic that killed the community would have spread so quickly that there was no time for proper burials. The site was never inhabited again, leaving the village to be buried by time. This gave archaeologists a fascinating window into how the villagers would have lived by studying the pottery, spearheads, and grinding instruments left behind. Number 6. Flu Pandemic, 1889 to 1890. As the industrial age boomed, new transport links between town and cities were established. Unfortunately, these made it very for the influenza virus to thrive and spread quickly between places with high populations. It only took 5 weeks for the epidemic to reach its peak in mortality and a few months to spread around the globe, killing over 1 million people. The earliest cases were reported in Russia, where it rapidly spread through St. Petersburg. Soon, it arrived in Europe and then the rest of the world. Can you imagine how much faster it would have spread if air travel had been invented? Number 5. Plague of Athens, 430 BC. Around 430 BC, just before the war between Sparta and Athens was beginning in Greece, a horrific epidemic ravaged the population of Athens. Historians estimate that it could have killed up to 100,000 people throughout its 5-year span. The Greek historian Thucydides, who died in 400 BC, described the events, stating that people in good health were suddenly struck with violent headaches and inflamed eyes. The throat and tongue became bloody and began to give up a foul-smelling odor. Some scientists believe that the disease that wreaked havoc through Athens could have been typhoid fever or Ebola. Many researchers believe that the overcrowding caused by the war gave the disease the perfect breeding ground to spread quickly. Ultimately, the Athenians lost the war to Sparta in 404 BC. Whether they would have won the conflict if the dreadful epidemic hadn't have taken its toll is still up for debate. Number 4. Philadelphia Yellow Fever, 1793. Yellow fever first struck in Philadelphia in the U.S., which happened to be the capital of the country at that time. Ignorant officials wrongly believed that slaves were immune to the epidemic and so tasked people of African origin to take care of those who were sick. It was later discovered that the disease was being carried and transmitted by mosquitoes, which had experienced a population boom the hot and humid weather of that year. When winter arrived, the mosquitoes died out, which ended the epidemic. Overall, the death toll was estimated at more than 5,000. Number 3. Spanish flu, 1918 to 1920. An estimated 500 million people fell ill from the Spanish flu, of which 1/5 died. In fact, the virus pushed many indigenous communities to the brink of extinction. The spread of the flu and its mortality rate was increased by the cramped conditions soldiers had to endure during the First World War, as well as the poor nutrition they got during wartime. Despite being called the Spanish flu, the disease is unlikely to have started in Spain. The reason the country got the blame was because it was a neutral nation during the war, meaning it did not have to comply with the strict censorship rules of the press. Because of this, they could freely publish early accounts of the illness. As a result, it was falsely believed to have started there. Number 2. Russian Plague, 1770 to 1772. Moscow was once ravaged by a terrible plague that had the quarantined citizens so scared that they erupted into violence. The riot spreads as quickly as the epidemic did, which resulted in the murder of Archbishop Ambrosius, who was trying to stop crowds from worshipping together. The Empress of Russia, Catherine the Great, was so desperate to contain the plague and quell frustrations that she issued a decree ordering that all factories should be moved out of Moscow. By the end of the epidemic, almost 100,000 people had died. In a strange turn of events, Yemelyan Pugachev, a man who claimed to be Catherine's executed husband, Peter III, led an insurrection that caused the deaths of thousands more. Number 1. AIDS, epidemic or pandemic. AIDS is among the deadliest viruses we have ever known. Since its identification, it has killed an estimated 36 million people. HIV, which is the virus that causes AIDS, is believed to have originated from a chimpanzee virus that was transferred to humans in West Africa in 1920s. What started as an epidemic became a pandemic in the early 80s as it traveled around the world. Currently, 48% of the 40 million people who have HIV live in sub-Saharan Africa. The disease had been incurable for many decades, but in the 90s, a medication was developed to allow people with the disease to live a relatively healthy life. Early this year, 2 people were cured of HIV, which gives an encouraging outlook on the future on this immune-destroying virus. If you found today's video interesting, let us know in the comment section and also tell us about what breed you think has the most unfair reputation. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Also hit the bell icon button so that you'll get a notification whenever we post a new video.